Upmonk Media, breaking news June 4th. Overnight, the situation in the Korean peninsula has gravely escalated. A North Korean ship was bombed by a fleet from the United States and South Korea joint exercises. Within 1 hour, North Korea launched several missiles into South Korea's territory, killing approximately 10 armed personnel participating in the joint exercises and about 25 civilians. North Korea has sent an intimation to the Security Council under Article 51 of the UN Charter that it is taking measures to respond to the illegal use of force by the United States and South Korea against its national sovereignty, in accordance with its right to self-defense guaranteed by the UN Charter. North Korea has stated that this was a solitary response from North Korea until further provocation from the US or South Korea. It stated that continuation of the exercises requiring a further response in self-defense. It further stated that in case its territory is attacked, it reserves the right to respond in self-defense with severe force, which may include nuclear missiles targeting both South Korea and US territories. U.S. spokesperson for the Ministry of Defense, in an emergency press conference, vigorously defended the bombing of the North Korean ship, stating that it had crossed into South Korean waters and had done so purposefully with an intention to ignite a conflict. According to the spokesperson, its crossing into South Korean territorial waters posed a great breach of the UN Charter and a direct threat to South Korea and the United States ships and personnel. Both the US and South Korea had all the authority to use force against North Korea. South Korean's defense minister has condemned in the strongest words the assault by North Korea on its territory, stating that the bombing of their ship was because of the transgression into its waters by North Korea. The minister stated that the US and South Korea will exercise restraint at this point, but will not hesitate to launch an all-out attack on North Korea in exercise of its right to defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. Multiple news reports indicate that the North Korean ship that was drowned did not carry any armed personnel, but was in fact a vessel carrying oil. North Korea Ministry of Defense has confirmed that the vessel carrying thousands of gallons of oil was put in place to act as a refueling hub for its naval and air forces in case of an aggression from the United States and South Korea. It is being reported that the several gallons of oil from the ship has gradually started leaking out into the Sea of Japan, threatening to add severe environmental damage to the already volatile situation in the region. The region is known to be extremely rich in marine life and is also home to endangered marine species, who will most likely be threatened because of this catastrophe. Some reports claim that the magnitude of the oil spills is much larger than anyone had expected. This is a potential catastrophe that not only compounded the outstandingly quick turn of events in just one day. In the meanwhile, several thousands of civilians from North Korea, 80% of which are women and children, have lined up at the Chinese border in fear of the conflict escalating. All North Korean men on the roster have been asked to immediately report to armed duty by the president. Sources report that neither China nor the international organizations operating on the Chinese side of the border have prepared in advance for anything of this magnitude. There is no provision for food, nor for accommodation in emergency shelters. Chinese media sources have claimed that the Chinese government has instructed border officials to ensure that no one is allowed to cross the border into China. If the conflict escalates, the situation may become dire, especially for women and children. News reports also indicate that thousands of people on the South Korean border have started fleeing toward major cities inland. An estimated 40,000 people, mostly women and children, have become internally displaced within one day. Many of them have had no time to carry their documents, money, or essential things. The United States Secretary General has urged members of the UN Security Council to hold an emergency session to address the precarious situation in the Korean Peninsula and to take immediate action to prevent any further escalation.
As the Secretary General of the United Nations, I am deeply concerned by the escalating situation in the Korean Peninsula. The use of force by all parties is unacceptable and has resulted in tragic loss of life and potential environmental catastrophe. I urge all parties to exercise restraint and to prioritize the safety and well-being of civilians in the region. The use of military force should never be a resort. In the contrary, all efforts should be made to de-escalate the situation through dialogue and diplomacy. I call upon the members of the United Nations Security Council to convene an emergency session to address the crisis and to take immediate actions to prevent any further escalation of violence. It is essential that the international community comes together to find out peaceful resolutions to this conflict and to prevent further harms to the people of the Korean Peninsula. I also urge the relevant UN committees and agencies to mobilize resources and to support for the displaced civilians on both sides of the border. The safety and well-being of women and children must be a top priority in this time of crisis. The United Nations stands ready to support all efforts to bring about a peaceful resolution to this conflict and to provide assistance to those affected by the ongoing violence. Let us work together to prevent further loss of life and to ensure peace and security in the Korean Peninsula.